Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here in Antwerp with another brew review, and today we are going back to the roots of where we live, or where I live at least. Today we are having a beer brewed by a personal friend of mine, Karel Teunis. And Karel is the brewer, the sole brewer and founder of CyDraLe Brewery. CyDraLe is a contraction of three of his, let's say, spirit animals, his horoscopes and such, but I will make a video on that later on, preferably with Karel. But we are having one of his beers, the Krabbenvanger, or the Crab Catcher. Crab Catcher is brewed for the Poldermuseum in Lillo, and Lillo is a very small, tiny village on one of the river banks of the Schelde, and they have a very interesting, a very intricate and very large museum dedicated to this region. And when I say this region, I mean the Polder region, which is a part of the north of Antwerp, the Noorderkemp and the Polders, and that stretches from well, where I live, Ekeren, north of Antwerp, and then Hoevenen, Stabroek, Zandvliet, Berendrecht, yeah, Lillo, of course, Callo, a piece, but also some small spots that don't exist anymore. So very interesting to see. Now, the Krabbenvanger, why did it appeal to me so much? Because this is a saison farmhouse ale, and I know that Karel takes his job very, very seriously. And he brewed this in cooperation, in conjunction with the museum, and the back of the bottle says it best when he says, the Krabbenvanger is a blonde saison style beer, but in our own interpretation. Hoppy yet not too bitter, sturdy body yet supple, a beer that fits in the hand of everyone that enjoys life. Yeah, that about sums it up, I believe. I know that when they were developing this beer, the people from the Poldermuseum asked him to make a soft, or a mellow, drinkable beer, and that is probably what he did. I haven't tasted this before. I've been waiting to do this on camera, but I should probably like this, because I know that he only used a generous hop bill during the boiling step, but only very late in the boiling step, so it should be quite aromatic. And when I look at the ingredients here, it says water, malted barley, pilsner malt, and smaragd, or so emerald, Saas Hallertau tradition hops. And he used a Belle Saison yeast, which is a very classic farmhouse ale yeast. So yeah, very curious. This amounts to a 6.3% ABV farmhouse style ale. Can't wait. Also, one thing that I like about this bottle, this might be a very loud label, yet I do like it because it's on a plain white background. It has some nice yeah, supporting colors, and what I'm very sensitive about is they added the designer, in this case Xavier Marien, also a local. So and I'm a firm believer in mentioning everyone that contributes to your beer, your art, your anything. Like, if you make music, mention everyone on the album. If you make art, mention everyone involved. If you make beer, same thing. For example, he also mentions that CyDraLe doesn't have their own brewery yet. So this is brewed by CyDraLe, by Karel, but in the kettles of Brewery Lezen in Herentals, or as we say, Hertals. Okay, extremely active. This is not an engraved glass, and it is a huge whirlwind. I left it for about 10 seconds and I already have a mountain of foam. So I would call this a decent head of foam. Also, this entire package of foam is cream. It is miniature tiny bubbles, the best kind that there are. Very, very nice. I would call this a pale gold or a dark yellow, something in between. A nice color. I'm gonna have to almost lost some beer there. Some nice white, slightly off-white foam, very nice. Ooh, oddly savory. Now I know for a fact that they didn't use any herbs or any spices, except for that hop shot in the late boiling step. Nothing was added to the beer, but they still managed to get a very savory, a very herbal, and a very citrusy aroma. Which is, of course, not rare for a Saison style beer. Yeah, very, very nice. Very complex aroma. I'm already on the verge of recommending this to people just by the aroma alone. So let's have a taste. Cheers. Yeah. First thing that I notice is quite citrusy, and that is typical for the old style saisons. Modern day saisons are a bit drier. This is a bit more, I don't want to say sour, but it is citrusy. It is a bit lemony, a bit limey. Also, the yeast did its thing. It is nice and dry, very well fermented. And one thing that surprises me in a positive way is extremely refreshing. Wow. I think this is what a saison is all about. It is well fermented, it is dry, but it is also really, really refreshing. So after working the fields all day, you want to be refreshed, get away from the sun for a while. That ought to do it. Also very highly carbonated, but in this case I absolutely don't mind. Most of the time I want my carbonation to be not too much, but in this case perfectly okay. Very weird. And it is very thirst quenching, which is one of the characteristics for a saison. Now, saison is not a protected term. There are 10 criteria, and a beer should hit 8 of those 10 criteria to be called a saison, but it's not protected, so you can do whatever you want. One of those criteria is being brewed in or around Hainaut, Henegouwen, a province in Wallonia, the south of Belgium. So that is not a hit. And another one is very weird, but very Belgian, bottled in 75 centiliter bottles, and this is a 33. So technically it just barely passes that saison line, but flavor-wise, aroma-wise, I think they really succeeded in making a nice saison. So again, props to Carl. Not only is his Samhain one of the most unique beers I've ever tasted, but he also succeeded in making a very classic, personal interpretation, in this case, of a saison. Very nice. And I know for a fact that he has more than decent beers, so we will be talking about him and his brews more often later on. Now I'm gonna savor this for a while because it's absolutely not a chugging beer with this amount of carbonation. I would not recommend chugging it immediately, but nonetheless I would give this an even or a decent 3.5. I think he succeeded in his mission, which is very important, and it is very pleasant, very nice. I do think it's a summery beer though. I would not drink this in winter per se. Now I know that on All Hallows Eve, Carl actually does an event for the Samhain of that year, and I will probably attend again this year. I don't think that I'm gonna drink a Krabbenvanger on that event. However, I think that I will get myself a crate of these for the summer and just to hand out to people as a staple example of a saison beer. Okay, that all being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, suggestions, whatever, leave them down in the comments. If you want to contact me, you will find my credentials in the description. If you want to work with me, same thing. If you want to support this channel, leave a comment, visit the Patreon page, share a video. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to see more, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever I upload something. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!